not being happy with where my life was going, I decided to change it, and I took it and put it in my own hands, and I put my work clothes on because I knew the dream I had work clothes on, and I went to work and built some cars that no one's ever seen before, and that's why they call me Bad Chad.
Today is a sad day. What can I say? It's a very sad moment, you know. Bad Chad was still building, still grinding, still pushing through life at full speed. The sparks were flying, the metal was bending, and the dreams were taking shape in that cramped Nova Scotia garage. But then something happened behind the scenes, something so heavy it pulled the ground out from under him. It started the day Jolene got the call no one is ever ready for. Her mother was gone, and from that moment, the path Chad was walking suddenly grew darker than anyone realized. Did Jolene leave him behind in the middle of the storm? Why is Chad's son nowhere to be seen in some episodes? What happened to Doug and Nate, the crew members who just vanished without explanation? And what really happened to Chad's life once Jolene was no longer beside him every day? If Bad Chad's work has ever inspired you, give this video a like to show him some love. Because what you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about this legendary builder. The glory days, when Bad Chad conquered television. When Bad Chad Customs first hit TV screens in 2019, viewers were witnessing something they had never really seen on a car show before. No spotless mega shop with million-dollar equipment, no fancy paint booths staffed by teams of specialists, no wealthy clients rolling up in exotic cars demanding perfection, just a cramped garage in rural Nova Scotia, and a guy who looked like he'd been living on welding fumes and coffee since the 1990s. Chad Hiltz wasn't building polished museum pieces destined for climate-controlled showrooms. He was building dreams out of trash. Old Chrysler shells rescued from junkyards, random roofs salvaged from who knows where, scrap frames that most builders would have melted down years ago. It all went into these Frankenstein customs that somehow, impossibly, looked right. Part art project, part mechanical gamble, part middle finger to conventional car building wisdom. And beside him were the people who made it possible. His fiancée and business manager, Jolene McIsaac, who transformed a backyard hobby into a legitimate business. His son, Colton, learning the trade while navigating the complicated dynamics of working for your father on national television. And a handful of local friends who showed up with work boots and faith, trusting that Chad's vision would somehow materialize from the chaos. The show's hook was simple but powerful. No big budget, no high-end sponsors, no safety net, just one guy's imagination and a crew willing to follow him into the chaos. Week after week, viewers watched Chad take vehicles that belonged in scrapyards and transform them into rolling works of art that defied conventional engineering wisdom. But do you know what was really happening behind that television magic? The schedule was absolutely brutal. Discovery wanted builds, delivered on a timer, storyline, drama, deadline pressure, dramatic reveal, then do it again. And again, and again. Every delay cost money they didn't have. Every misstep felt like it happened in front of 1 million people watching and judging. The same breakneck pace that turned junk into television gold was the exact same pace slowly wearing everybody down. The pressure wasn't just about building cars anymore. It was about performing for cameras, hitting story beats, creating drama that felt authentic but also fit network expectations. Chad had to be himself, but also a version of himself that worked for television.
First contacted to do the TV show. Discovery and the production company said, put together a team. We want you to build a car every episode.
That's exhausting in ways most people can't imagine. But that was just the beginning of his troubles. The real problems didn't come from the builds themselves or even from the crushing production schedule. The real trouble came from something much simpler: the name printed on his shop door. The Green Goblin problem, when legal reality crushes dreams. Before anyone ever heard of Bad Chad Customs, there was Green Goblin Customs, the original name of his shop, and the identity tied to one of his most famous creations.
Talk about the car. I'm going to talk about the Green Goblin.
That wild, sharp-grinned machine became a symbol of everything Chad could do when he let his imagination run wild. The Green Goblin wasn't just a car, it was a statement. It was proof that you didn't need a fortune to build something that turned heads and dropped jaws. Then, just as the TV momentum was picking up and the future looked brighter than ever, reality hit with the force of a sledgehammer. Licensing issues surfaced around the Green Goblin name. Lawyers got involved. Paperwork piled up. Cease and desist letters arrived. The kind of nightmare no car builder wants to think about, especially when you're trying to keep a television show running and a business afloat. The message was devastatingly simple. He couldn't keep using that name to make money. If he wanted to protect the business he'd spent decades building, he had to let the Green Goblin identity go. Can you imagine that? The name that defined you, the brand that people recognized, the identity that represented everything you'd built, suddenly ripped away by legal technicalities you never saw coming? So, the painful rebrand began. Signs came down from the shop. Merchandise got completely redesigned. Social media accounts, website content, sponsorship pitches, everything had to shift over to Hiltz Auto Co., the new official name. It was the smart move legally, but it wasn't painless. For a small shop already stretched thin by TV deadlines and production demands, suddenly having to redo branding, inventory, and marketing strategy was just one more crushing weight on their backs. Every hour spent dealing with legal paperwork was an hour not spent building. Every dollar spent on rebranding was a dollar that couldn't go toward tools or materials. And then, just when they thought things couldn't get more complicated, the entire world changed overnight. When everything collapsed, the pandemic that broke the machine. At the same time, Chad was navigating legal nightmares and rebranding chaos. The pandemic hit. Not just Nova Scotia, the entire world ground to a halt in ways no one had prepared for. Supply chains broke completely. Parts that used to arrive in days now took weeks or months, if they arrived at all. Rules for filming got dramatically tighter. The kind of scrappy, up-against-the-clock builds that Chad was famous for became nearly impossible when you couldn't get parts, couldn't move freely between locations, and had to navigate ever-changing safety protocols. Television production is expensive, even when everything goes smoothly. Now, nothing was smooth. Crews had to be smaller. Filming schedules became unpredictable. Insurance costs skyrocketed. The spontaneous, chaotic energy that made Bad Chad Customs feel authentic became nearly impossible to capture under pandemic restrictions. The show kept going through sheer determination, but the writing was already appearing on the wall. Ratings were good, not legendary, but respectable. Discovery started leaning harder into bigger, safer franchises, with more established audiences, and little by little, Bad Chad Customs stopped looking like a long-term bet worth the complications. Then, just like that, it was gone. Season 2 wrapped in October 2020. No final season announcement, no farewell episode explaining what happened or thanking fans for their support. No closure of any kind. One day, the episode stopped airing, and nobody from the network bothered to say why. Fans were completely confused. Message boards filled with questions. What happened? Is there a season 3? Did Chad quit? Did Discovery cancel it? But for Chad, the problem wasn't just that the show ended. It was the deafening noise that followed. The internet turned against him. When fame became a weapon, television had turned Chad Hiltz into Bad Chad, the guy who could build absolutely anything from garbage. The scrappy underdog who proved you didn't need a fortune to create automotive art. But the internet? The internet turned him into something else entirely. A target. In car forums, Facebook groups, and YouTube comment sections, people started dissecting every single frame of his work. Some professional builders mocked the scrap metal shortcuts, claiming his methods were dangerous or unprofessional. Others said the show exaggerated drama or conveniently skipped proper engineering steps that would reveal problems with his techniques. A vocal handful accused the entire show of being staged, claiming the deadline pressures were manufactured, the customer reactions were scripted, and even some of the builds themselves weren't entirely real. Now, it's one thing to be judged by people in your own town who actually understand the context of your work. It's something entirely different to be judged by thousands of strangers around the world who only see edited television clips and think they understand your entire career. At first, Chad brushed it off. He had spent his whole life doing things his own way, ignoring conventional wisdom and proving doubters wrong. Why start caring about online critics now? But here's what happens when you become a television personality. The more the show grew, the louder the criticism became. And gradually, the attacks shifted from questioning his builds to attacking his character, his shop management, his crew dynamics, his entire way of doing business. Soon, even the way he managed his workers became controversial. People who had never run a business, never faced impossible deadlines, never had to make payroll with limited resources. These people felt qualified to judge how Chad ran his shop. He eventually posted a video addressing the criticism head-on. No manufactured drama, no fake apologies designed to please everyone. Just Chad explaining that his expectations were simple and non-negotiable. Show up on time, listen to instructions, work hard, and if that was too much to handle, his shop wasn't the right fit for you. To some people watching, that sounded harsh, unreasonable, even abusive. To Chad, it was just reality. When you're fighting impossible deadlines with no safety net, no corporate backing, and limited resources, you don't have room for passengers. You need a crew that shows up ready to work, not people who need constant hand-holding and motivation. But even the toughest guy has a breaking point. Online attacks from strangers, production pressure from networks, endless long hours in a physically demanding job, the constant need to prove himself to critics who would never be satisfied no matter what he built. It all started to pile up, creating a weight that grew heavier with each passing month. And at the very moment when the outside world expected him to push harder and build faster and prove himself again, real life landed a devastating hit he never saw coming. The loss that changed everything. When grief invaded the garage. In late 2024, Jolene's world fell completely apart. Her mother, Jacqueline Jackie McIntyre, passed away at just 61 years old.
Today is a sad day, and the reason being is Jolene's mother has passed. She passed yesterday.
After facing cancer with what her obituary described as grace, strength, and dignity, Jolene wrote publicly about her mom's peaceful passing, surrounded by family in her final moments, and about the shock of how quickly it all happened. This wasn't just a personal loss that stayed in the background of their lives. Jackie had been quietly watching Bad Chad every evening, cheering them on from home. She wasn't a character on the show, never appeared in episodes, but she was absolutely part of the foundation, supporting everything they built. Think about that for a moment. While Chad and Jolene were grinding through impossible schedules and facing constant criticism, Jackie was there, a consistent source of encouragement and family support. And then suddenly, she was gone. Jolene wasn't just Chad's fiancée in the romantic sense. She was the strategist behind the business, the organizer who kept chaos from becoming complete disaster, the person who had spent almost a decade building the brand alongside Chad, transforming a hand-built backyard shop into a seven-figure business that employed people and supported families. When someone that's central to your operation gets hit with profound grief, the entire organization feels it. The ripple effects touch everything. So Chad and Jolene did something most people on the internet never saw coming. They slowed down. The YouTube uploads became less frequent. The shop got noticeably quieter. There were fewer big public appearances at car shows and festivals. At one point, a post even announced that the YouTube channel was going on hiatus until further notice. For Chad and Jolene, it wasn't about giving up or walking away from everything they'd built. It was about something more fundamental: breathing, taking space to process grief, remembering that business success means nothing if you lose yourself in the process. But the internet, of course, filled that silence with its own stories. Fans started whispering that the business must be in serious financial trouble. Others insisted with complete confidence that the couple had split up, that Jolene had walked away from Chad and the shop entirely. Some declared that Bad Chad was finished for good, that the dream was over. The rumors spread faster than facts ever could. In the absence of constant content and updates, people simply invented explanations that fit their assumptions. And then, after weeks of uncertainty and speculation, a notification popped up on thousands of phones. We're back after going MIA for 2 weeks. A new YouTube episode dropped, a land speed record bike build with Chad in full creative flow and Colton working by his side. The same announcement hit their social media channels, hyping the return with characteristic energy. No long explanation about where they'd been, no dramatic addressing of rumors, no apologies for taking time away. Just, we're back. We never stopped working. Thank you for sticking around. The rumors didn't need to be answered directly. The proof was right there in the shop. The work continuing, the creativity flowing, the father and son building together. But if you've been watching the YouTube channel closely over the years, you've probably noticed something else changing. Something nobody wants to talk about directly, but everyone wonders about. The crew that vanished. Where did Doug and Nate go? Two of the regular crew members, Doug and Nate, started appearing. And while the internet kept obsessing over who left and why, spinning elaborate theories about betrayals and conflicts, Chad was already thinking past that question entirely. he was focused on something more important. What comes next? Reinvention. How Chad built a new empire without television. When Bad Chad Customs ended, most people expected the predictable story. Reality star fades out, maybe pops up on another network for a season or two, then disappears into reruns and "Where are they now?" articles. That's not what happened. Instead of desperately chasing another TV contract or trying to replicate his Discovery Channel success, Chad doubled down on something he could actually control: YouTube, his own shop, and his own rules. The Bad Chad YouTube channel became the new window into his world. Unpolished, daily grind videos at first, slowly evolving into a consistent stream of builds, fixes, repairs, and behind-the-scenes shop life. No network executives deciding what made good television, no producers manufacturing drama for ratings, just authentic content showing the real work. Alongside the digital content came Hiltz Autoco's online store, shirts, hats, hoodies, and yes, even Green Goblin-themed gear for fans who remembered where it all started. It wasn't just merchandise as a money grab. It was how thousands of people around the world felt like they were genuinely part of the project, supporting the shop and wearing the brand with pride. By 2025, some outlets were estimating Chad's net worth around $2 million. Not rock star money by any means, but undeniable proof that the combination of television exposure, custom vehicle work, and strategic brand building had turned that tiny Nova Scotia shop into a genuinely serious business. But here's the part you absolutely don't see in net worth charts and financial estimates. There's Rockabilly Weekend, the long-running festival in his corner of Nova Scotia where hot rods, music, and community all collide. There are charity car raffles supporting local causes, hospice donations honoring people like Jolene's mother, quiet acts of giving that never make it into episode titles or video thumbnails, but show up in local obituaries and heartfelt thank you posts. There are the small shop visits that never get publicized, young builders who walk in intimidated and leave with a few new tricks, some hard-earned wisdom, and significantly more confidence to pursue their own dreams. And there's the way Chad talks about all of it when asked. He doesn't claim to be wealthy. He doesn't pretend every decision was perfect or that success came easily. What he says over and over in different ways is devastatingly simple. We get to wake up and do this every day. That's the win. Behind the builds, the physical toll, nobody talks about. At 52 years old, Chad Hiltz has been bending metal, breathing welding fumes, and working in uncomfortable positions for over 3 decades. That's 30-plus years of physical punishment that most people can't even imagine.
Welcome, Mr. Chadwick Charles Hiltz on the TV. It's a beautiful spot. I'm just getting finished with my hair transplant.
Think about what a car builder's body goes through. Hours spent hunched over engine bays, days welding overhead with sparks raining down, nights grinding metal with vibrations rattling through your bones, the constant lifting of heavy parts, the awkward angles required to reach impossible spaces, the repetitive motions that gradually wear down joints and muscles. Television never shows you this part. The cameras capture the dramatic moments, the sparks flying, the deadline pressure, the reveal of a finished build. What they don't show you is Chad limping into the shop the next morning, his back screaming from yesterday's work. They don't show the ice packs, the pain relievers, the visits to chiropractors and physical therapists. And it's not just the planned, controlled work that takes its toll. It's the accidents that happen when you're exhausted and pushing to meet a deadline. The burns from welding sparks that found exposed skin. The cuts from sharp metal edges. The times a heavy part slips and catches a finger or foot. Every builder who's been in the game as long as Chad carries scars, some visible, many not. But here's what makes it even harder. You can't just take a week off to recover. When you're running your own shop, when people depend on you for their livelihood, when customers are waiting for builds and fans are expecting content, you push through the pain. You wrap the injury, pop some ibuprofen, and get back to work. The physical demands become even more challenging as you age. What you could power through at 30 becomes legitimately difficult at 50. Your body doesn't recover as quickly. Injuries that used to heal in days now take weeks. The cold Nova Scotia winters make everything worse, stiffening joints and making the unheated shop even more brutal to work in. Yet Chad keeps showing up. Day after day, year after year, he's in that shop creating. Not because it's easy, but because it's who he is. The builds aren't just how he makes money. They're how he makes sense of the world. They're his art, his therapy, his legacy. And increasingly, they're something else, a gift he's passing to his son, teaching Colton not just the skills but the mindset required to turn scrap into something beautiful. The business reality: money, stress, and survival. Let's talk about something most reality TV shows gloss over completely: the actual business of running a custom shop. When viewers watch Bad Chad transform a pile of scrap into a stunning custom car, they see creativity and swell. What they don't see is the spreadsheet Jolene is maintaining in the background, tracking every dollar spent on materials, every hour of labor, every overhead cost that doesn't care whether you're having a good month or a bad one. The math of custom building is brutal. You buy scrap metal for pennies, but proper paint costs hundreds. That vintage engine you found for cheap? It needs thousands in machine work to make reliable. The cool custom parts that make a build special? They eat into profit margins so fast it'll make your head spin.
Regulatory difficulties and high costs continue to dog the development and uptake of personal aerial vehicles.
And unlike a regular repair shop where you can estimate jobs with some accuracy, custom work is full of surprises. You start cutting into a donor car and discover rust you didn't see. That simple modification turns into a complete rebuild. The part you ordered doesn't fit and requires fabrication. Every unexpected problem costs time and money. Now add the pressure of creating content. When your shop doubles as a YouTube studio, you're not just building cars, you're producing entertainment. That means filming, editing, managing social media, responding to comments, maintaining consistent uploads. All of that takes time away from the actual paid work. The TV show brought exposure that helped the business grow, but it also created expectations. Fans want to see bigger builds, more dramatic transformations, faster turnarounds, but bigger and faster cost more money. And when the TV contracts end, you're left with an audience expecting TV-quality content on a YouTube budget. This is where Jolene's role becomes absolutely critical. While Chad is the creative force, she's the one keeping the business from collapsing under its own ambition. She's tracking expenses, managing client communications, coordinating parts orders, handling the legal paperwork, maintaining insurance, dealing with taxes, all the unglamorous work that determines whether a custom shop survives or becomes another cautionary tale. The stress of this balancing act is constant. One slow month can create a cascade of problems. Can't pay suppliers on time, they stop extending credit. Can't make payroll, you lose skilled workers who can't afford to wait. Can't afford proper insurance? One accident could bankrupt everything. And the worst part? When things go wrong financially, everyone assumes you're incompetent or reckless. They don't see the client who didn't pay, the supplier who delivered the wrong parts, the insurance claim that got denied, the 100 small disasters that can sink even the best-run shop. Chad and Jolene have managed to navigate these waters for years, but it's never easy. The $2 million net worth that gets reported, that's not sitting in a bank account. It's tied up in property, equipment, inventory, and the business itself. The actual cash flow is probably far tighter than fans imagine. Success in this business isn't about one big score. It's about surviving 1,000 small challenges without letting any single one destroy everything you've built. The truth about Chad at 52. What really happened? So, what really happened to Chad Hiltz? His life seemed to take such a dark turn. He didn't vanish because of one dramatic explosion or scandal. He didn't fall apart in front of cameras in some tragic public meltdown. His life didn't get ruined by a single dark secret finally exposed. What happened is slower, more human, and honestly, far more interesting than any manufactured television drama. A TV show lifted a small-town builder into the national spotlight, gave him a platform and audience, then walked away without warning when the business calculations changed. Online critics tried relentlessly to tear down his unconventional building methods and management style. Legal headaches forced him to abandon the Green Goblin name that started everything. The pandemic disrupted supply chains and production schedules at the worst possible time. Grief hit his family harder than any bad review or canceled show ever could. Friends and crew members drifted away for reasons that were never fully explained. The internet filled every silence with rumors and speculation. And through it all, Chad had a choice to make. He could chase fame harder, trying to recapture the television magic and prove to critics that he still mattered. Or he could pick a different fight entirely, staying creative, maintaining independence, and protecting the small world inside that Nova Scotia shop that actually meant something real. His son came back, not because of television cameras or money, but because the work itself mattered. The builds continued, not for network ratings, but because creation is what gives life meaning. The result isn't a tragic collapse or cautionary tale about fame destroying another person. It's something unexpected, a man who realized that his life didn't have to look successful on TV to actually feel successful in real life. The real plot twist. If anything, the real plot twist in Bad Chad's story is this: he didn't lose his life when the cameras stopped rolling. He finally got it back. At 52, Chad Hiltz is still building, still creating, still pushing metal into shapes that shouldn't work, but somehow do. He's doing it with his son beside him, with Jolene managing the business side, in a shop that's still cramped and imperfect, but absolutely his own. The dark turn everyone worried about? It wasn't destruction, it was transformation. The painful process of shedding other people's expectations and building a life that actually fits. Was it easy? Absolutely not. Did he lose things along the way? Without question. But here's what he gained: freedom, control, the ability to wake up and choose his own path instead of following someone else's script. The physical toll on his body is real. The business pressures are constant. The criticism never completely stops. But Chad isn't working for critics or chasing fame anymore. He's building because that's what he does.